Okay, hi everybody. Today we're going to be doing lesson 95, subtracting integers. So I want to start by going over the new concept with you because this can be kind of a tricky concept. So in lesson 88 we talked about opposite numbers, how -3 and 3 are opposites because they're the same distance from 0 on the number line. Just like 4 and -4 are opposites, or 8 and -8 are opposites. So we're going to kind of use the idea of opposites as we learn to subtract our integers today. So we can write our numbers in several different ways. Okay, we can write a positive number like this. Okay, we can write a negative number just by saying, oh, where are you? Just by saying -3. Okay. But we can also write the opposite by using a combination of positive and negative signs and parentheses. So I can write -3 as plus parentheses -3. Subtracting 3 is essentially a -3 anyway. I'm taking 3 away, or I'm moving to the left on the number line. Adding -3 is the same thing. I'm going to move to the left on the number line again. I can also say minus, oh, not what I wanted, minus -3 is the same as +3. A negative and a negative combine to make the opposite, which is a positive. Now that might sound a little confusing, but what this means is the opposite of -3. So when I see that negative sign, I want the opposite of whatever number this is. So -3. And the opposite of -3 is +3. I can also say the opposite of 3, which is just what it looks like, -3. The opposite of +3. Okay, so let's use that to move on to look at this little problem right here. So we can talk about 5 minus 2. We all know that 5 minus 2 equals 3. And we know that because if we draw a number line, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 5, 4, 3, 2. So if we start at 5 and we take 2 away, we move to the left 2 numbers, we end at 3. Another way to write that is this right here. 5 plus -2. Whenever we have a negative, remember, we move to the left on the number line. So 5 plus a negative means we're actually moving to the left. We're taking 2 away from that 5, which is the exact same picture as this right here. 5 plus -2, we move to the left on the number line, and we end up at 3. So let's go ahead and look at our examples, shall we? Get rid of this. Okay, here we go. Example number 1. Feel free to draw a number line or write this in words if you need to. So subtract -4 minus +6. So I'm actually going to turn this around. -4 minus +6. Now, notice the parentheses. They're very important. If you see parentheses, you need to write them down. So this is the same as saying -4. Instead of saying minus +6, I'm going to add -6. I'm going to take these two signs and I'm going to switch them. This means the opposite of +6. And the opposite of +6 is -6. So if I draw this on my number line, And feel free to write your own number line. Number lines are great things to have. 0, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, -8, -9, -10. So I'm going to start at -4. -4, and now I'm going to add -6. So I'm actually going to move, because this is a negative, we're going to move 6 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so we end up at -10. Because I'm adding a negative, I'm going to move to the left. So -4 plus -6 equals -10. Okay? All right, let's move on to example 2. Okay, -3 minus 2. If I look at this, this actually means -3 minus +2. Okay? Remember, if there are no parentheses to make it a negative, it's actually subtracting a +2. So if we look at this, we can rewrite this also to say -3, the opposite of +2, plus -2. So -3, let's draw that number line again. Zero, -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. So we start at -3, and we're going to add -2, but because it is a negative, we're going to move to the left. So 5, or -3, moving 1, moving twice, and we end up at -5. Now notice, in the last two examples, I have turned a subtraction problem into an addition problem by finding the opposite. I recommend that you do the same. It makes it a little bit easier if you're always thinking about adding a negative rather than subtracting a positive. You just move to the left when you add a negative. Okay, example 3. Okay, 7 minus -1. 7 minus -1. Now this means 7 minus the opposite of 1. So what we can actually do is we're going to change this into its opposite, because subtracting a negative is actually finding the opposite. So this problem actually turns into 7 plus 1, which equals 8. So subtracting a negative, this right here, two negatives together, turns into a positive. We are subtracting the negative. Okay, example 4. So let's simplify this expression. So we have -5 minus -4 minus +1. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we're going to work from left to right, following the order of operations. So we're going to start with -4 and -5, the first two expressions. So -5 we keep minus the opposite of 4. We're actually going to do what we did in example 3 and turn this into a positive. So negative 5 plus 4, and then we're going to keep the minus positive 1. Okay, negative 5 plus 4, if we draw that number line, negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1. So if I start at negative 5, because I am adding a positive, I'm going to move to the right. And I'm going to move to the right 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 5 plus 4 equals negative 1. And now I bring down the rest of my problem. Minus positive 1. So now I can change that into negative 1. Where am I? Negative 1. And I'm going to turn this around. Instead of subtracting a positive, I'm going to add a negative. Plus negative 1. And negative 1 plus negative 1 equals negative 2. And here is my answer to example number 4. Okay, go ahead and do the lesson practice. You have A through M tonight. Make sure you follow all of the directions, and we will see you tomorrow.